Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the latest Same Old Arsenal podcast. It's me, Suburban Gooner Chris, and I am joined by our usual trio. Amanda, Gooner Girl 1969. In the chat, please mention your preferences as to when she will mention Anfield 89. We'll do a little sweepstake, as we always like
what?
to do. I'm
You're
guessing
more
17
boring than
minutes.
me. I don't even mention it until you say something, and this is nothing like Anfield 89 anyway. Shut up.
We'll get to that. It's also the fabulous
Yeah.
cookie, James Cook, 96, who makes with his handle, he makes me feel really, really old. Like, that's literally the year you were born.
Well, Chris, you say that. If I was a footballer, I would be in the twilight zone at this point. So look at it that way. When I see players coming through at Arsenal and, they're 18, 19, that makes me feel very old. Looking at Kobe Mainoo out there today for United, I mean, I'm 10 years older than him, which is a pretty disgusting prospect, but here we are.
Can we just say hello to Barnaby? He's a United fan. And he's coming
Welcome to
out.
the chat. Welcome to the show, Barnaby. Amanda, do you have any specific words you want to say to Barnaby?
Yeah, I feel sorry for you watching your team. That's all I'm going to say. Sorry.
Yeah, it was. There'll be plenty of Arsenal fans in the chat as well. Put your questions in the chat. Last 10, 15 minutes, Amanda will read them out and we'll go through as many as possible. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this beautiful Sunday evening. You might be able to see, I might have to, when I get the guys to talk, just pull my blinds down a bit because the sun is setting in a beautiful part of London. And most of us, of course, are in London. Spare a thought for those poor people, poor Arsenal fans that have travelled up to Manchester and had to deal with the Mancunian rain. But you knew what you were signing up for because it rains all the time in Manchester. Right, let's get into the nub of today's conversation, which is going to be a gritty, maybe you'd call it. Paul Merson described it because obviously we're all at home, so we've watched the game on Sky Sports. He described it as Arsenal getting out of second gear. Let's get some feelings first and foremost. James, I'm going to go to you first, just for how you feel, and then we'll get from the chronology into, the first, line up and all of that sort of stuff. But general feelings to set us off. Let's go.
Strange. I feel very strange, Chris, because weirdly, I'm not sure if you guys will agree, but I think we played a hell of a lot better in the 3-1 loss there last season. Obviously, we lost that game and it was a real horrible one. I still remember Anthony coming on for his debut, wheeling away, scoring that goal. And I just thought we don't deserve to lose that game. We deserve to win it, if anything. I know the scoreline says 3-1, but we were so much better than United. Whereas I come out of today's game feeling, how on earth have we won that? Because I don't think we were the better team in any way, shape or form. But yeah, as the old saying goes, when you win games like this, that's the hallmark of champions. And I don't think we will be champions for what it's worth. Sorry to sound incredibly pessimistic. I think City have got these next two games in the bag, but it's really encouraging to see that we're able to win these games when we're not playing well. And I know obviously this is a really poor United side. When the team lineups came out, everyone was looking at us to win this 3-4, 5-0. It's Old Trafford. It's a ground where we notoriously have a horrendous record. And I don't think it was ever going to be a scoreline that was going to be that grand. So for us to have come out, got the job done, as I say, we've not played well. But the most important thing is at this stage in the season, when there's a title on the line and we're taking, well, there's a title at the lane as well. When we're taking
literally on the lane,
it's in my head. It's in my head constantly, in my head. But we're taking it to the final day. And when was the last time we did that? So I'm over the moon.
Yeah, do you know what? You're absolutely right. And for me, at the beginning of the season, we all jumped on this pod and we talked about how we were feeling, how we might get on. And I will hold my hands up and say, I thought we were the third best team in the country and we'd probably finish third. I'm sure Amanda's got in her amazing book of historical notes. What did I say?
Oh, you did. No, you did. So James has gone for Arsenal. I've gone for City. You've gone to City, but I've gone Arsenal second. He's gone City second. You've gone Arsenal third, Chris.
Yeah, because I thought that we were the third best team in the country, because I thought Liverpool are not going to have a shocking blip like they did last season. But actually, the reality is that we are, at very least, and that's been confirmed mathematically today, the second best team in the country. Amanda, pre-game vibes, what were you thinking?
Okay, so I just want to go back to the fact that me, James Johnson, and Mervyn did a post-game show because you two were gallivanting last week.
We love a gallivant.
We love a gallivant, and we were all pretty confident we would win. But James and I both went for 1-0, and Mervyn went for 3-2. And people in the chat room were sort of having a go at me and James, going, "Don't be ridiculous! 1-0, they're pants. We're going to get 4-5." And I'm sitting there, and me and James are both saying it. It's just not going to be that sort of game. Did not anticipate this sort of game. And then Friday night, I was on TV Gooners pod. Sophie, big shout out to her. It was a lovely chat, all about Arsenal United, and I was the same there. I just felt apprehensive. I didn't feel stressed at all today, because I've said for weeks, and I'll say it again: we win all our games, and they'll win all their games. So to me, the league's done. It doesn't matter what anyone says to me. Of course, I hold hope. Of course, I pray that Tottenham win 6-0 on Tuesday night. Of course, I hope that West Ham do something. And I know it's not over to the fat lady sings, but it's not in our hands. They are scoring 4 and 5 goals, City. I didn't watch the Fulham game. I didn't even look at the result. I predicted 4-0 before I went out, and they got 4-0. It's getting boring. Teams just don't bother against them. We know every Tottenham fan's going to cheer every City goal on Tuesday night. And I'm going to say this now: if this was the other way around, we'd be the same. We may not come out on social media and say it. We wouldn't want Tottenham win the league as much as they don't want us. I've got no issues with it. But my issue with them is, surely they'd want to get in the Champions League. And if, please God, Liverpool beat Villa tomorrow night, those players have got to go out and try and get in the Champions League. First step up, first stage is we need Liverpool to beat Villa. Then it gives Tottenham hope on Tuesday night. So with all that
Yeah.
combined, I really wasn't stressed today, Chris, because I just thought we'd win. I didn't think it would be as bad as that. And I would just like to give a big shout out to Simon Lester in the chat room, because he literally was walking back from United soap, and I sent him the link and went, "Come on, Si, come watch us." So he was one of those there that was. Have you seen what's coming down the
Yeah.
stands and everything? I mean, I've been to
It's
Old Trafford
falling
many
down.
times.
Old Trafford is falling
It
down.
is. It's not a great stadium, but anyway, I wasn't stressed. But yet, when it started, honestly, I said this, guys. When the team walked out on the pitch, I said to Carl, "They don't look confident." And Carl went, "What are you talking about?" I said, "They don't look confident." And they didn't look confident the whole game.
Yeah, they really, really didn't. And also, can we actually have an amnesty on Carl putting who's going to win the league in the chat, please? In fact, I'm
Well,
even going to
gonna
say
show
that
it.
man puts it. If he puts it, I want you to literally. I will give you the opportunity to go out of the room and walk downstairs, wherever it is, and say, "Will you stop doing that?" Like, no, I'm not. We're not having it. But anyway, that's yeah. Old Trafford is falling down. What's interesting is that we're all talking about Spurs absolutely giving up, James, but Man United are essentially in the same position as Tottenham, because they don't want Man City to win. I know it's the whole kind of like Man City are like a
Different.
sterilized sort of machine that it's a bit meh, but Tottenham also, yeah, it's the same sort of position. Like let's move on from that though, because we will get to it. Let's talk about team lineup. We were unchanged. Were you quite excited, James, with the Man United lineup? Because I saw a lot of people on social media being like, "No Bruno, no Rashford. This is going to be a piece of cake, right?" What do you think?
I wasn't really too fussed about who United had lining up, because I still remember when we went there, when we were in a title race in early 2016, and that was the emergence of Marcus Rashford, who I think was 17 at the time. They had Varela at right back. They had Marcus Rojo playing at left back, Daley Blind, Michael Carrick at centre half. We lost to that team. So I certainly wasn't, like I say, paying too much attention to that United lineup. And if anything, I think it did them a bit of a favour not having those guys in the team. I think they were a bit more free flowing in their football. I thought
Sorry to
Diallo
interrupt,
was
just 2 seconds.
Yep.
Because it was almost like all of their fans as well were like, well, we've got no players available. And this almost, to me, it was like do you remember all those back years ago when Neil Mellor scored against us for Liverpool? It was a bit like that. It was like the United fans were like, nah, we've lost. Sorry, go on, carry on, mate.
Well, yeah, it's exactly like that, because what have United got to play for this season? Europa League, and they're going to get usurped by Chelsea towards the end of the season. When you look at how poor Chelsea have been, that is a catastrophe for United. It's absolutely shambolic. They've had a horrendous season. So all they've really got to play for is pride at this point. And I think we can talk about what you were mentioning before about this being an equivalent to the Spurs game against Man City, and United, if we won this game, then City go on to win the title. I think United fans would probably say that Liverpool are their bigger rivals, maybe historically. But I see what you're saying about it being a similar scenario. I think if we look at the Spurs game, I know I'm jumping ahead of the gun here, but I think it's on everybody's minds at the minute. I think with Spurs, I'm not worried about Tottenham Hotspur Football Club throwing in the towel, because professional footballers and their manager, they're not going to say, look, boys, just go out there and have fun. Whatever happens, happens. I don't think that will happen if there's Champions League football or even Europa League football on the line. I don't see a professional football club doing that. I think that's something that's a fantasy that goes on in people's heads. But I think the sticking point will be that their fans will not be up for it. And that will be a key denominator if, the ground is half empty and, Tottenham fans are ironically cheering City goals. But yeah, let's talk about that later, because it's going to be a big one, I think.
Can I just say something
it really
about...
will.
Sorry, can I just say something about the rivalry? It's different, guys. City were never relevant to United growing up. City were really not. It was Liverpool were their rivals. They only became relevant when they were bought out. So the rivalry between us and Spurs is a little bit different. United hate us nearly as much as they hate City. Tottenham don't hate City at all and hate us with a passion. So there's the slight difference of why United might have wanted to win today. I don't think they're asked. I mean, the older fans maybe, but I don't think they're that asked. Every Tottenham fan I know is praying that City get 5. Every single one. I don't know anyone, and I know so many Tottenham fans. And social media has brought them all out this week, wearing Tottenham shirts and stuff like that. And the reason they did the lap around yesterday, because it did look very odd, was because the families wouldn't have been there with their kids at 10 o'clock at night. So one of my Spurs friend, I said, why have you done a lap of honour? You got City. And he said the families wouldn't be there at that time of night. And people can't stay late because of trains. No, this is their thing. People can't stay late because of trains as well. They don't come out straight away. What you're talking about, people leaving at 11. It's and I get that. They're not going to throw. The players are not going to throw in the towel. All I'm saying is the fans will be cheering everything for City, and when they'll probably all be singing Blue Moon by the end of the game as well.
Yeah, possibly, but the reality is that let's move this into the positives, because I feel like there's going to be moments in today's pod sponsored by Ruth Beck Art. I might hasten to add, if you want to check out Ruth on Etsy, please do so. Ruth is very, very kind enough. She's been kind enough for most of this season to be able to sponsor us, and she does some amazing things. Pin badges, there's stickers, there's tattoos, some really, really cool cards actually, like Valentine's Day, stuff like that. So if you've got a gooner in your life, well, we're all gooners, so we've all got gooners in our lives. But even if there's not a gooner in your life, do you know what? If you've got a Tottenham fan in your life, send them an Arsenal-related card saying "thinking of you," because let's be honest, we are a flipping good football team, and today we're going to get through some of the challenges. Amanda, I'll start with you. I'll go. We'll start talking about the game here. We're going to get through some of the challenges of today, but ultimately, when we get to the end of it, I'm going to be next Sunday. We'll all be in the ground. I'm going to be so proud of this team because we will have achieved 89 points, which is our second best Premier League total ever.
If we beat Everton, Chris. If we beat Everton,
we'll beat Everton.
Mate, Everton. West Ham. I'm going to say this right now. West Ham are on the beach. They will get battered by Man City. And I don't want to tempt fate, but we should beat Everton. So really, it will come down to that horrible game on Tuesday, which we'll come to later. But Amanda, like today's game, I thought we started really well. The first 5 minutes, I was thinking to myself, this looks good. Now you're giving me a face, but after 5 minutes, like think about those first 5 minutes, we looked good. The ball was in their half. After 5 minutes, it was a little bit scary.
I think it was 3.5 minutes, because at 4 minutes I started moaning to Carl. But I honestly felt like I was watching a different team, Chris. We lacked everything that we have been watching the whole season. They played the occasion. They didn't play the team. The team are diabolical. The worst United team. Listen, I've been watching since the 70s. I mean, I don't even remember a team worse than that. And if Casemiro was in my team, I never want him to play for my team again after what he did with that goal. But we'll get to that. First 3 minutes, I'll give you 5 minutes. First 5 minutes we were okay, and then it just, I don't know what happened. I think they were apprehensive, Arsenal, and it shows the mentality, the fact that we have won and got a clean sheet, and this is going to happen. This was bound to happen. It's hard, Chris. When have these boys ever been in this position? Now you're going to a club as well that you generally don't do well at.
Yeah, I mean, it's that record at Manchester United is horrendous. It's almost like I feel like the last time we won non-COVID times, James, was 2006. I think it was a penalty. I saw someone tweet something earlier, but I want to bring you in because I saw a tweet that you did, James, on 5 minutes, because Amanda said, like, all right, I'll give you 5 minutes. But on 5 minutes, like, I felt like for the first 5 minutes, we were pretty good. But on 5 minutes, Partey loses the ball and Højlund had an attempt at goal. And it sort of then spiraled from there, didn't it? Ultimately, we'll get to the goal. We'll be all happy. We'll do all the good stuff in a minute. But like you specifically said, like Partey wasn't great. But on 5 minutes, it was Partey that made that mistake. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the nerves and just general feelings around that sort of period? Because it sort of set the tone, didn't it?
Yeah, it's a shame really, because it did all kind of flip on that one moment, that Højlund chance where he was basically through one-on-one and should have done a hell of a lot better. I don't even know how he managed to put that so far over the bar. It was a really, really good chance. But before that, I thought in the first couple of minutes, we really looked like a team that wanted to assert dominance on this game. Like, we really backed United into a corner, quite literally. You know, we had White, Saka and Ødegaard penning Dalot into the corner. And yeah, then that moment, things just started to become a bit wayward, and it wasn't just Partey. I think a lot of the bad things that happened today were through him, and I don't want to say that in a scapegoaty sort of way, but I just thought he gave the ball away a hell of a lot. He was caught in possession too many times. He was far too casual. It was incredibly reminiscent of the performance he put in against West Ham at the tail end of last season. So that was very concerning, and I think he should have come off at half-time with Jorginho. I really thought he was that bad. But it was also Ødegaard. He gave the ball away so much. Saka gave the ball away so much. Havertz gave the ball away so much. And it was one of those games where nothing was clicking, and it was feeling eerily similar to what we saw against Fulham, where just nothing was working. No pass was working. We couldn't keep hold of the ball. We just couldn't string two passes together. And I think one of the big priorities we've got to look at this summer, if Partey is to stay, irrespective of that, we need to invest in a long-term number 6, because take away the injuries, take away his age, he's not getting any younger. But these performances are something that can crop up with Thomas Partey. As good as he's been, and I saw Barnaby Jones put a comment in the chat box that, you know, Partey coming into midfield doesn't work. I strongly disagree, because I think he's been excellent in the past couple of games that he has played. But when these performances come out of his locker, it's detrimental. And I think when we're up against a transition, teams just play through him so easily, which is crazy for a guy that we often think of as a defensive midfielder, but he doesn't really put that many tackles in when you think about it. So for me, the long-term, the big target in the summer for me is definitely a long-term number 6. But yeah, disappointed with his performance today, but it wasn't just him. We were sloppy all over the park.
But do you not feel
Amanda,
like when
what was your
Partey
gut
gets...
feel on?
Oh, sorry.
So I was going to say, what was your gut feel on that? Because I don't think it was Partey. It was not just, as James said, it's not just Partey. Odegaard misplaced a few passes. I thought Havertz, also White at right back, seemed to get sort of done a few times by Garnacho. So what was your kind of gut feel on that?
I asked after 20 minutes for Jorginho to come on. I just Partey worries me. He holds the ball too long, and as I was tweeting that, I think one of the comment someone else said about on Twitter, everyone was saying, you know, why isn't Jorginho playing? I feel comfortable with Jorginho. I don't with Partey at the moment, and I listen. I was at West Ham away last year when Rice took the ball off him. This is what is in his locker, but when he plays, when he's on his game, he's fantastic. Obviously, all of them. I mean, if you had to name a man of the match, there is only Saliba. That and he got man of the match, and I can't disagree. Right? Who?
Saliba. That guy was immense.
Oh yeah. Saliba was immense. I mean, he was like the shining star of the whole team. I've not seen Saka, Odegaard, Havertz all play that badly in the same game. And thank God, because I was screaming.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I ask you a question? Why do you think that was? Do you think they were a bit like Old Trafford sort of fear?
Yes, because honestly, Chris, look at them coming out the tunnel again. You may not have noticed. Do you remember that picture of the 4 defenders when they're eyeing up someone and they've got it in their locker and they were like, "You're an our man now. You know, we're top of the league."
Yeah.
They came out. They looked like a little bit apprehensive. We don't do well at Old Trafford. City passed, Fulham yesterday to go top. This is not in our locker to have that experience. We didn't have the experience last year. We didn't take them to the end. Everyone knew on this planet we had to beat United to stay in the race, to take it to the last game. Everyone knew that. So it was completely apprehensive. They played to the occasion. They did not play to the fact that Man United are absolutely terrible. And I agree with Cookie. They should. I mean, Cookie and I were just talking about this off air. They should have scored today, Chris. They could have beaten us if they'd have had their shooting boots on. I would be very interested to see the stats. If with shots on target.
I can give you some stats if you want. I'll interject just for 2 seconds to give you some stats, and then you can get some comment on it. So they only had 2 shots on goal in the entire match. They had 14 attempts to our 11. So we had 5 shots on goal. A couple of nice bits. Rice forced a good save. Odegaard forced a save. So yeah, so it was 2 shots to United, 5 shots to Arsenal. It was 14 shots attempts at goal to United, 11 on Arsenal. There were 2 fouls United, 7 corners to United's 4, and then goalkeeper Onana made 5 saves to David Raya's 2. But carry on.
I would like Arteta to sit down and watch that whole game with the whole team and ask each of them what they were thinking. I think the nerves got to him. God knows if Saka's injured. Look, if he's going to be injured, it's now, isn't it? We wouldn't have wanted that 5 months ago, and I hope he's okay. No one did anything of substance apart from Saliba. Ben White got caught. Tomiyasu was okay, but it was like, thank God we played United. Thank God, because any other team, I think we would have lost today. I really do.
Yeah.
Saying that, you go to Old Trafford, it is our bogey side. We've won 1-0, we've got a clean sheet, 3 points, top of the league. We've taken it to the last. So on that respect, we're all over the moon. The reason I'm not so excited tonight is because I'm gutted that we are so bloody close, but it's not in our hands. And I'm not going to mention 1989, but it was in our hands. And we had that chance that we could do it. This is so different. We are literally going to be sitting in the Emirates next Sunday because we assume they're going to beat Spurs. We're all going to be begging our West Ham mates to, big up the atmosphere for David Moyes' last game and try and get behind the team and want to win it for Rice, even though half of them can't stand him. And we're all going to be sitting at the Emirates. We will go 2-3, 4-0 up. I can just see that happening. And then we're all going to just be, okay, we've done amazing. We're proud of the boys. Let's get the lap of honour and we go again next season, because unfortunately, I cannot see it. And I promise you, if we win this league, I will do a forfeit because whatever anyone wants me to do, well, within reason, I'll do it because I am convinced, and I've said it for quite a few weeks now, we will win all our games and they will win all theirs.
If you would like to post some suggestions into the chat, of what the forfeit amount should be, I'm sure she can star them, write them down in a magic book, and then at the end of the season, we will relive that. James, let's get on to something nice, because I feel like we've been a bit like, oh, woe is us, because, we weren't great. We got the job done, and we're talking about a win here, but the Trossard goal, do you know what? Trossard is doing a business right now. And I agree with Amanda. I think Odegaard wasn't great. I don't think, I think there was a few below average performances. I don't think Havertz was great, but he popped up with an assist and Trossard pops up with a goal. They are in form at the moment. Do you want to talk us through that goal and general feelings?
Well, my initial feeling was I didn't even celebrate it because I was so convinced that it was offside. I just sat there and was like, well, that's definitely offside. There's no way that's going in. Yeah, I was so convinced. And it wasn't until I saw the replay and you've just got Casemiro just strutting back.
Jogging back.
Yeah, he wasn't even close to being offside. He was so far onside. It is hilarious. And that's exactly why you can't play someone like Casemiro as a centre half. Not only is he over the hill, but he's not a centre half. He's a midfielder, and it was it's indicative of a midfielder playing in centre half. He just couldn't understand the offside rule in that instance. But it was, brilliant from Havertz to be aware of that situation, to play the ball through, and take his goal contribution tally to 19 in the Premier League, which is fantastic. Even if he doesn't get another one against Everton, that's a goal contribution every other game. And if you'd have said he was going to get that at the start of not even at the start, 3 months into his Arsenal career, I'd have been like, you're having a laugh. There's no way that he's going to do that. But he has proved a lot of people wrong. And given that he played so much of this season as a number 8, where it wasn't really working for him, it makes you wonder how many goal contributions he could have had we started day one with him as our number 9. He could be looking at 30. Honestly, he could be looking at that many. But it was brilliant from him to put it into the box. Lovely finish from Trossard, who's come up absolutely clutch in some of these big moments. I mean, going back to even when we got the draw at Stamford Bridge, it was him that popped up with the goal. So he's got a lot of goals in big games, in big moments against big opposition. And he's done it again. And as much as I love Martinelli, you can't really drop Trossard at the minute because although he does some frustrating things and he loses the ball every now and then, he pops up in those areas. And you've also got to say, his defensive work rate is absolutely fantastic. It's so good. So he has been one hell of a signing. Really, really good.
Yeah. And you know what was interesting from my perspective? I think Gary Neville even said it in the commentary on Sky Sports, is there was a moment where Højlund went through in that first half and he was sort of jockeyed by Saliba, and Gary Neville even said, like, look at the bodies that just converge around Højlund as soon as he gets the ball. And I think that is, Amanda, we can't really talk about it. I don't know if you feel the same as me, but I can't really talk about it in the moment because you're too nervous. But when you look back on games like this, like at the end of the game, Paul Merson said Arsenal didn't get out of second gear. If you look at the defensive display, you can say in hindsight, yeah, we really didn't. There was a couple of edgy moments, but we were so comfortable in the end. So our defense, we really need to give a shout out to them because like the number of clean sheets, the defensive display, and that is symptomatic of players like Trossard. Leandro Trossard is a left winger. And that man is tucking in to play effectively left back at times. It's really, really amazing. And as much as you can talk about the goal if you want to, or just get some thoughts on the goal, but as much as we can all be slightly frustrated at we didn't quite click today because I think a few of us saw the City game yesterday and we're like, oh, Man United are rubbish, and then Bruno's not in the team, so maybe we can get some goals here. But ultimately, 3 points most important. I think we need to give a little bit of a tip of the cap to the likes of Leo Trossard for his defending, the likes of our backline for the defending. Can I get some thoughts? And also, actually, final bit, I'm going to shout out for the Kai Havertz apology tour, which continues each week. And this week was in Old Trafford. But Amanda, just some thoughts on the defending, Leo Trossard. You can talk about the goal if you want. It's a bit of a free swim, so crack on.
So you were saying about Leo Trossard tracking back. So how come Casemiro can't track back? I'm sorry, I think
He's
that's
literally an
rubbish.
old man.
I come on. Even Roy Keane was having a go at him. He would right. Not only plays him onside, miles onside, which lucky for us. The fact that when Trossard was there, he didn't do anything. He doesn't even attempt to go for the ball. He just let Trossard, tuck it in the goal. I could have scored that. He did. I'm more angry with Casemiro than probably most United fans. I mean, it's an appalling player for what he's done now. However, we have players that track back. We have players that are fighting for the team. Our defence is on par with how I felt in the 80s with George Graham. You've got a fit Ben White, fit Tomiyasu, George Graham, Gabriel and Saliba. Come on. It is all right, I'll say nearly on par because you're looking at me like I'm mental.
No, I'm waiting for it. It's almost like The Simpsons where it's like, say it. Say
I've not
it.
done anything. I don't need to say anything. The 80s, we had a fantastic defence. We were known 1-0 to the Arsenal. We're not used to that at our place because we do score more than normally. I just had a feeling it would be 1-0 today. I didn't think it'd be free flowing. I didn't predict that we'd play like this. And I think just United tried to stop us playing, but I love our defence. I absolutely love our defence. But our defence can play well like that because of Declan Rice. Because when Patrick Vieira joined, they all had a meeting and they said to Patrick, you need to protect us. And that's why we ended up having one of the best midfielders in the world with Vieira. And this is the way Rice is going now. He protects them. And I love that. Absolutely. But I also weirdly prefer Jorginho with Declan Rice. I feel like he protects as well. Maybe a bit unfair on Partey because obviously he has just come back from so many injuries and stuff. But I mean, what price is Saliba? What price is Gabriel? I mean, Ben White didn't have a great game today, but Gabriel and Saliba were good.
Yeah, really, really good. James, we're going to the second half now, but I don't know that there's that much to talk about really, because it sort of felt like, again, I'm going to reiterate the words of Paul Merson, and he said like Arsenal didn't get out of second gear. And of course, the three of us watching the game, or all Arsenal fans, all you guys in the chat as well, we're all watching the game, obviously being a bit nervous, but now that we've got the benefit of hindsight and the 3 points, it was very much Arsenal keeping an average Man United team at like arm's length, wasn't it? What was your? I think we should probably do 5 minutes on the second half, just talking about general feelings or chances. Again, just reel out anything that comes to mind, and then we should probably talk about permutations because it almost feels like this was one of those. If you remove the fact it's at Old Trafford, the fact we never win there, the fact that it's Man United, obviously a big team, as much as we want to laugh and joke about how appalling they were and how crap their team is, ultimately they're still a big team. It felt like a sort of, if you'd have plonked this, if you'd have removed the team name and plonked it into like October, you'd probably be like, yeah, routine, comfortable, 1-0 away win, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, just beating Man United at Old Trafford, we all know how difficult that is to do when you're an Arsenal supporter. So to have just got the job done, I'm happy with it. You know, we've got that monkey off our back, and hopefully going into next season, we're not going to be thinking about that horrible record we've got there because, well, in the past, 4 or 5 years now, we've gone there and we've won twice. Okay, one of them was in the COVID year, but we've still gone there and done it. And I'll still go back to that game last season. We played really well there, and we shouldn't have lost that game. Yeah. So I don't think we should feel this inferiority complex to Manchester United. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with that. In terms of the second half performance, it was just attack versus defense, wasn't it? And I think we kind of set up in that way. We never really looked to dominate the game. We had a couple of nice moments in possession, but for the most part, we just, well, at least it felt like we said to United, you have the ball and we're going to hit you on the counter-attack, pretty similarly to what we did against Spurs, because we know that United get into dangerous areas, but when they get into those areas, they don't do anything with it. And it probably felt a lot more scary than it actually was. I remember there were a few times, good few times actually, that Garnacho skinned Ben White, but then nothing came of it. And that happened quite a few times. They got to the edge of the box, ball went over the bar, it went straight into one of our centre halves. there was never really any hair-raising moments. And we actually had some good chances to score ourselves. There was an opportunity from Erdegaard. Martinelli came very close. Declan Rice came very close. So on another day, we score at least one of them. And this game's a lot more comfortable than it actually, it should have been. So, yeah, happy with the result. We did our job in the second half, battened down the hatches, brought on Jorginho and Kivior towards the end of the game. And look, no one's going to remember this game in a year's time. No one will. It's just one of those games. People are going to look back on this game if we win the league and it'll be like Arsenal won that game 1-0. They're not going to go into the details of how it all went. And I mean, despite us all talking about how poor of a performance it was, our stats are actually better than United's apart from the possession.
Wow.
So I think that kind of just goes to show
Yeah.
how poor of a United side this is. With the caveat, of course, they have got so many injuries, and had they had, Rashford, Fernandes, Martinez, Harry Maguire, you can basically name an entire 11 of Manchester United players that are out injured. But like you say, going to Old Trafford and winning is not a foregone conclusion, and especially when there's a title on the line. So throw those two things into the mix. To go there and have got the job done, that's all that matters.
Yeah, it really, really does. And that's the thing that we need to focus on. And I think for me, that's the thing that I will ultimately come back to on Monday, not next week, the week after the season is done, Amanda. That's the thing that I will come back to, which is that this is a really good Arsenal team. Like, they get the job done. They look so impressive. They're so resolute defensively. It's really odd because last season we were a bit ropey defensively. Like, it was our attack that was just free flowing, but it's been absolutely shored up. Rice is a big part of that. I definitely think that Saliba being fit for the whole season is a big part of that, as we talked about man of the match. But should we talk about like the result of this? Because unless you've got anything specifically on that second half that you want to talk about, because I don't really. It felt like I said to James, and as James has sort of articulated quite well, it sort of felt like for us as fans it was uncomfortable, but the reality is that United offered very little. And I think if you look back on it, you probably say it's a classic team that's got injuries, team that isn't very good, team that's basically on the beach because they've got an FA Cup final to play. It's a bit like Fulham yesterday, except Fulham were way more. Fulham was so much more on the beach because they were flying flipping kites, for Christ's sake. But any kind of thoughts on that second half before we get into permutations and what this means, and thoughts about the remaining sort of week or so that we've got left of this, what has been ultimately, let's reflect, it's a really, really good season that we should be really proud of these Arsenal players.
I think the fact that we've kept it going until the final day. What a team, what a manager, what everything. I'm so proud, and I think that we all feel like that. And I think that if you're going to have a bad game in 20 and you win 1-0, it's not great. There isn't much to add to the second half, and we can get on to permutations and what ifs and what you want to discuss next. But I'm like a mother, like with all their children, and I'm so proud, beyond proud. I think I've sort of come to the conclusion that I've accepted we're not going to win the league. So for me, I'm just going to enjoy next Sunday afternoon, and I'm going to stay for the lap of honour. And in my head, I am so proud because last season it was different, Chris. We had Saliba out, we had Rob Holding in. It wasn't that and everyone wanted to show that we weren't the real deal. We've been the real deal the whole frigging season. We've been the real deal. We had a couple of bad games just before New Year. Villa, but I'm not being funny, guys. For the younger people here, you take it for granted that Arsenal should be winning week in, week out. That's not how football is. So you should really, really big up our team. I'm talking about feeling a little bit down today because of what we've seen, but I'm not down as in negative. Just like, I suppose I was just a bit shocked at the second half as well, and felt like it went on for ages and ages and ages, and I couldn't see us scoring. I could see them scoring just because it would have been very Arsenal to do that. But yeah, I'm so overwhelmed because this has got to be the first season we felt like this in what, 20 years? It's got to be 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. And obviously, before all that, we had a lot of success. This is a bloody successful season. And I want to do a big shout out to our fans who were incredible today. It was like an Arsenal home game. I heard United occasionally, but we did not stop supporting that team, even when the heavens opened and they all got soaked. Very proud of the boys. I can't wait for next Sunday. I've just already said, Tottenham are going to lose, West Ham are going to lose, but I'm just going to enjoy next Sunday afternoon and know that 89 points is the most incredible season.
Yeah, absolutely, James. It's an This is we're onto the vibes bit, so I want you to give me just your general vibes. Amanda did a really good job there of giving a bit of her sort of vibes, but for me personally, and then I'll get you to sort of give your comments on, like, I just really enjoy watching this team. Structurally, they're set up really, really well. Defensively, they are so good, and they give you hope even when they're playing. Like today, they didn't play great. Like at times, we lost the ball in transition. We were giving away sloppy passes in central midfield, but they just have a unity about them, which is something to be really, really proud of. And me too. I'm going to be there tomorrow. Sorry, tomorrow. I'm going to be there next Sunday saying, do you know what, lads? Good effort. I thought that this would end up being another one of those, Liverpool and Man City have been the two best teams for the best part of 6-7 years. So, we'll do well to keep pace with them. But actually, we've surpassed Liverpool. I'm proud of that. I'm going to be really, really happy. So I guess it's a vibes question for you, James, as to general thoughts post-game, feeling about the way that the season has panned out so far, and anything else that you want to chuck into the mix.
Well, I think look at how many games we've won, Chris. 27 in the Premier League. That's more than we've ever won in the Premier League.
Crazy.
And next Sunday, a week from now, it could very well be 28, which would be 2 more than we've ever won in the Premier League. For a guy that is in his first managerial job, it's not bad. I know he's been there a little while now, and it's taken a while to get the team where it is, but that is quite something. To have done it in a relatively short space of time, to have a team that I think is now, 95% there. I think there's players we've got to get rid of in the summer. I think there's a couple of additions we need, but it's not like 3-4 years ago where we just felt like we needed to basically implode the squad and start again. It really does feel like we're just looking at those finessing touches now, and you can't be disappointed with this season. If we don't go on to win it, and I said earlier, I don't think we will. I'm in total agreement with you, Amanda. I think that City will beat Spurs because they're a much better team than Spurs, and I think they'll beat West Ham because they're a much better team than West Ham. I just think that's how it's going to go. But I can't look at Arsenal for that and be like, well, that's on you, boys. You bottled it. You've really messed up against Aston Villa and Fulham and West Ham, because that's football. And you can have a fantastic season and you're still going to lose points somewhere along the line. And to have achieved our highest, what will it be? Our highest ever points tally? I mean, surely it will be.
Second highest. So the Invincibles got, I think it was 91 or something like that. But basically, it will be our second highest ever in the Premier League. Before they had, because I think back in the old league first division, it was like 42 games. But yeah, sorry, go on, carry on, James.
Well, to achieve an 89-point season when you're going up against this City side, to have won more games than we've ever won in the Premier League, how can you not be happy with that? The only thing that I wouldn't say spoils it for me is that we don't have something to show for it at the end of the season. I think we all know that we've got something to show for it in terms of players that have excelled, like Kai Havertz, Saka, Gabriel's come on leaps and bounds. Saliba has been unbelievable this season, but we don't have, a physical thing. We don't have a picture at the end of the season of all the guys holding up a trophy. We still might, but that's why, I love the FA Cup so much, for example, because if we came second, but we had an FA Cup final to look forward to, I think that would feel like such a good season. If we had this season, got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, won the FA Cup, I think we'd all be buzzing, and that would be a recognition of how good this team is. But City are probably going to win that as well. So, I mean, go on, Amanda, if you want to chip in.
I would just like to say, to caveat everything we are saying, because people in the chat room are saying, like, it feels like an end of season pod, yet we could be
Yeah, Phil
champions next
Macker, I
Sunday.
saw that.
Yeah, we all know that. I'm just going to put that up there. We all know this. Okay. We're not sitting here going, it's over 100%. It's just we're being realistic. Okay. And I would like to give a big shout out to over 900 of you that are watching us. And I want you to know that come next Sunday, if for any reason that a miracle happens and in East London they do something, or no, actually it's at the Etihad, isn't it? I think. If something happens and we go and win this, then like all Arsenal fans, we will be ecstatic. I will know for a fact, and I'm telling you now, I will cry. In my seat at the Emirates, if we win this next Sunday, I will cry and probably not want to go home that night.
I don't
So
think you'll see any of us for a week, will you?
yeah, I don't. You know what? I need to, and we are excited about the possibility, but it's really in my head, it's 90% done. So I don't want you to walk away from the same old Arsenal and think they've given up already. I just think they're a machine, City, and they're not that they're playing two very weak teams now. But miracles happen, and football's a funny old game, and I'm not going to mention it, but I felt like that going to Anfield. I didn't think we'd win. I wasn't one of those that did. But you go thinking you've got a chance. This is different. We could win 18-0 on Sunday. It won't make any difference if they win 1-0 at the Etihad. So I think that it's just an emotional time for us. We're all really proud. That's what I want to say. That, and I'm like you, Cooks. I feel like we've won. And I said this on Sophie's pod. I feel like we've won, even though we're probably not even going to get a trophy for it. And wouldn't it be ironic if we win the league and United win the cup? I mean,
that ain't
wow.
happening. That's
Yeah, I
literally
know.
not happening.
But
They
honestly,
are not a good football team.
honestly, we've seen funnier results. That's all I'm going to say.
To be fair, you can say the same thing about the fact that Man City on Sunday next week play West Ham. Like, there's been weirder results. Maybe West Ham suddenly realise that they actually want to win a football match. I know they beat Luton yesterday, but maybe West Ham won't be on the beach. I mean, we all think it isn't going to happen. But such is the crux of life. And Joe, you're absolutely right. Me too. I would love a miracle. We're going to get into some questions
can I
in a
just say
second,
a
Amanda.
little something? Sorry, but we're all going to be a little bit excited this week, aren't we? There's going to be that little bit of hope that they'll probably beat Spurs, and then we'll go, well, West Ham might have a chance, and I'm convinced we'll beat Everton. So, and football is a funny old game. It really is. So I don't want
think
anyone.
If they beat Spurs, I think it's done.
Yes, I think it's done anyway, but we'll all still wake up tomorrow morning and go, come on, football, come on, is funny. Funnier things have happened. West Ham could get a penalty. City could play like we did today. They could be nervous. Say they go 1-0 down in the 60th minute. I don't know. And we're 4-0 up against Everton. Their fans will be on them. See, now I go the other way and I get that little bit of hope. That's all.
James?
I can't share that, I'm afraid. I'm so resigned to it being done, and I hate to sound.
Come on, mate. Let's drop some hopium. Let's drop some hopium in there. Come on.
Hopium. I'm lacking in it, mate. But I don't want to say that in a negative way, because I still think what we've done this season is absolutely exceptional. Like I say, I think the biggest chance is going to be at Spurs on Tuesday. They've got a terrible record there. Spurs, if they've got Champions League football to play for, I know the fans won't be up for it, but I think the players, like I said earlier, I don't think as professionals they're just going to throw a game and not give any effort. So that's the one for me. That's the one I'll be keeping an eye on. And like Alan Algar says in the chat room, West Ham have got no centre backs, so I don't hold out.
And if anyone knows about West Ham, Alan knows about West Ham. So, but Alan, and you've been around long enough, just like I have, that. Weird. Who'd have thought when we went to play Birmingham in the League Cup final that we would be so atrocious and those sort of things bounced in off Chesney or whoever was in goal that day, and we lost to Birmingham. No one saw that coming. Was it who was in goal?
It was Chesney in goal.
And what was the defender? Koscielny and Chesney. I mean, as Arsenal fans, we expect some things like that occasionally. Look at Luton Town in '88, but I'm just saying, funnier things have happened. And are the Arsenal gods taking it to the last moments at the Emirates, So the place go. If you think the place went mental when Reece Nelson scored last year, I don't even know what's going to happen if we win it next Sunday. I'm already thinking about how I'd even cope, how everyone will cope, and the fact that I will from the east stand up. I want to run on the pitch and I can't get down to the pitch. But you've got to have that little bit of excitement. There's no point sitting here going, it's done. I do think it's done. I know it sounds funny, but I'm still a little bit excited. That's all. I'm out Tuesday night. I'm doing the same thing. I'm not even interested. I won't even be looking at my phone. I've said to Carl, if for any reason Tottenham get a draw, you call me. But apart from that, I don't want to hear from you. I'm just going out with girls. No, I don't want. It wasn't planned like that. It's just a date, and all of a sudden it's Tuesday night. Because I did that yesterday. I had a nice day out yesterday. I wasn't stressed about Fulham and City, so I just knew that was going to happen. But
Yep.
we need Liverpool to win tomorrow night, boys. We
Well,
have to.
I was just going to get to that, James. How important do you actually think it is, with the context of Tuesday, that Aston Villa lose tomorrow? Do you think it's important, or do you think
Yes.
City are going to do it, whatever? So whatever. You sort of touched on it because you've said it's done, but give me some thoughts.
Yeah, I do think it's important, massively important, because if they lose that game, I think Champions League football suddenly becomes a very realistic prospect for Spurs. Because if you look at who Villa have got on the final day, it's Palace at Selhurst Park. And this is a Palace team that is beating everybody at the minute. They're playing some unbelievable football. And given how Villa played against Olympiacos, and they've had some very good performances in the run-in, notably against us. They've also had some rather shaky performances. So I wouldn't bank on them going to Selhurst Park against this informed Crystal Palace side that are playing football for fun at the minute. I mean, talk about teams being on the beach. They're on the beach, but in a good way, because they know they're playing such good football. They're just looking forward to next season. So I think it's paramount. If Liverpool win that game, Spurs suddenly can go, okay, right, we can actually do this. I think it's pivotal. So I will be definitely keeping one, probably two eyes on that game tomorrow night.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Goal difference at the moment is for Arsenal. A goal difference is massive for Tottenham and Aston Villa. So we really do need Liverpool to actually show up. And of course, today it was a confirmation that Liverpool cannot physically finish above Arsenal. So there any kind of hope that Liverpool had that both Arsenal and Man City would lose all of their games has gone out of the window, because officially we can finish above Liverpool into second, and that confirms that we are the second best team in the league. So my pre-season predictions are out the window. Big up to the fact that we've got over 1,000 people checking us out right now on the chat. So thank you very much for joining us. Please leave a like, subscribe, press the notification button, all of that. Just as a quick reminder before we get into the questions, we are sponsored by Ruth Beck Art. She is fabulous. She does amazing things. She's got an awesome shop. Check it out on Etsy. We love having her on. Amanda, should we get some questions before we bugger off for the evening and go and enjoy what is left of the beautiful sunshine that Manchester really doesn't seem to have felt or experienced today?
Okay, so I'm just going to come back to the Tottenham thing. I know we've covered it, but Rob said, I've heard people say to me, Tottenham have already given up on fourth just because they did the pitch parade yesterday when really it should have been Tuesday. But I've explained that. It's the fact the families can't be there. There's no trains and stuff like that. And they wanted to do, because I criticised it straight away as well. But I think we've covered that. It's the fact that it was a Saturday afternoon. Right. Well, Carl Stark said, who's going to come second? Should we ban him now?
James, do it.
Please do. Yeah. Right, you actually want me to answer that? Well, I think as everyone that's watching this can probably tell, I don't think you need me to say who you think is going to come second. I don't think you need my negativity coming in. So, Chris, I'm going to throw that over to you, mate. Bring me that hopium that you've been talking about.
It's going to be a 4-4 draw with Man City versus Tottenham at the Toilet Bowl Stadium. And then Man City are going to win 6-0. We're going to win 8-0 against Everton. There you go. I'm a pessimist, and here I am. Thank you very much, Carl Stark. It's your fault if we don't win the league.
I think how I'm feeling, I'm so split. There's part of me going, I said weeks ago, what's going to happen? And it's going to be an amazing end to the season and we'll come second. But there's always that little part of me that's going, Amanda, for God's sake, why have the gods taken you all this way and not, today lost and that's it? Is there a reason it's going to the last game? I'm quite spiritual, so I'll be praying this week to Arsenal gods, anybody's gods, that just get a draw somewhere, City, because I'm convinced we'll beat Everton. Right. Different train of thought here. JH, welcome to the show. Martinelli, still injured or carrying something? So, Chris, do you think that he's not starting him because he likes the way Trossard starts and Martinelli finishes? Or do you think he's carrying something?
100% he wants to keep a winning team. And I think that's the reason why he'll keep the same team next weekend, assuming Saka hasn't got a knock or anything. Because Thomas Partey, as James said before, wasn't great today. And yet, I suspect he'll still play next weekend.
What about you, Cookie?
Yeah, I definitely don't think there's any injury there. I think he's just been really out of form, to be quite honest with you, ever since he had that slight injury, which is a real shame because he was so bang in form and he's a player that's really struggled for consistency this season. He's definitely not hit the heights of what he did last season, but he is a young player. These things are going to happen. And we still saw some good things when he came on today. He made that great run, had a great shot on goal. We all know the quality is there. It's just that Trossard is providing the end product at the minute, whereas Martinelli isn't. And I think that's the key difference. Just look at that chance Martinelli had against Bournemouth last weekend, where he really should have done a lot better and just ended up running into no man's land. But I still think he's got so much to offer, and I have no doubts that come the first game of next season, he'll be one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah. I think that. I think he's injury free now, but I think it's working all right. So why change a winning team? David Ziegler, all the way from the States. Hello, David. Thanks for joining us. Are United in a worse place now than we were before hiring Arteta? Cooks, what do you think on that one?
That's a great question. Tough one to answer because obviously you've got to take into account the amount of injuries they've got, and that's a bit of an excuse, I suppose. But just look at their injury list; like it's really unfortunate. They've got some really, really, really big names missing, and we talked about missing Saliba at the back end of last season. They've missed Martinez for majority of this season. He's a key player for them. Casemiro's fallen off a cliff edge. I'm not sure everyone saw that coming. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think there have been some terrible investments in that United team. I mean, Casemiro, for the money they paid for him, the wages they paid for him for a guy that's now 32 years old and declining rapidly. But then you look at players like Anthony, who is just horrendous. I'm sorry to say, is a very, very poor footballer. Højlund, I think, is a good signing, but he's one of these ones that's a slow burner. I just think there needs to be a big overhaul. They've got some talents there, no doubt. I mean, Kobe Mainoo's a great player, I think, and he should be there for years to come. But I think there's a lot of work that needs doing. And I think from what I've seen of Ten Hag, particularly this season, I don't think he's the man to do it. I think there's something very Emery-esque about him, the way they're so open all the time. I mean, I heard earlier that they've conceded almost as many shots as Derby County did in their relegation season when they were absolutely awful. I mean, that's just not sustainable, especially for a club like Manchester United. They play like a relegation-threatened team at times. I mean, they can't be getting turned over 4-0 at Crystal Palace. And they've had some heavy, heavy defeats this season, as they have done in the past couple of seasons. So I think they need a new manager, they need new players, but it all starts from the ownership. They will tell you that the Glazers are a massive problem for them. You've only got to look at how the stadium's falling apart. So I think they're actually in a worse place than we were when Arteta took over.
Well, we've got a United fan here. He said you've got to back the manager like Arsenal did. It takes time to rebuild. So you sort of disagree with that because you think Erik ten Hag should go. Chris, do you feel the same? I mean, obviously, Barnaby, this is your club we're talking about. So I do appreciate your input. But I don't think he's the right man for the job. But go on, what do you think, Chris?
I don't think that there's been enough signs that he has a certain approach or plan that will work. There were signs with Arteta that things might work, but I don't think I've seen enough of that from Ten Hag. However, and again, apologies, Barnaby, for listening in. Our sole, I think it's our sole Man United fan listening in, but I would have no problem with Ten Hag staying in charge with Manchester United for a very long time. Next question.
Yes. No, would I? Thank you, David, for your question. Another one from David, actually. What first teamers do you think are ending their Arsenal career next weekend? Chris?
Cedric, hallelujah,
Your favourite.
hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let's have a Cedric be gone party. I think and then he's gone. I think Thomas Partey might be gone because he just can't stay fit. We know that Jorginho has signed a new deal. A few of us speculated, or is it Partey Jorginho? Well, I think we know now. He'll stick around. I think I have a sneaky suspicion that Eddie Nketiah, it might not have ended his career, or maybe there might be something that happens with Eddie Nketiah and maybe even Emil Smith-Rowe.
Okay, so Phil Macker's put Ramsdale. What do you think on that? Do you think he'll? I think he's going.
Oh yeah,
but
he's
what do
gone.
you-
Yeah,
Yeah,
110%.
he's gone.
Alan Algar says Sinchenko, hopefully. Cooks.
On Zinchenko, I mean, I wouldn't get rid of him because I think he's one of those Swiss Army knife type players. I still think I would be interested in seeing him in midfield at some point because I just don't trust him as a left back. But I still think he's got too much quality to throw out. So I certainly wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of him. He wouldn't be one of my first names to lose. But yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I think I'm just looking at the substitutes from today. Nketiah, I think he's nailed on to go. Ramsdale, definitely gone. Smith-Rowe, I think all the signs are there that he's going in the summer, which is a shame. Reece Nelson, Nuno Tavares, Kieran Tierney, Sambi Lokonga. I mean, it's an
Wow.
opportunity for us to make a good bit of money this summer, but with all those players going out, we're going to need new players in to bring the level of the squad up, and also to make sure that we've got enough players available. Because if we go through an injury crisis, you know that you're going to be dependent on those guys on the bench. We're just fortunate that we haven't had a scenario like that this season. But I think there's going to be a lot of outgoings, and I think there's going to be question marks even over players like Jesus, Fabio Vieira. So it'll be an interesting summer.
Okay.
It will certainly be an interesting. All right, Amanda, should we do one or two more, and then we'll go and enjoy the last of the English summer before it starts raining in?
That's happening tomorrow, isn't it? Getting ahead of myself. Are we going to win the league next season? From Daniel Jesse.
Nope. Next question. Oh, no, sorry. Next season.
Yes.
Do you know what? Next season, I've got a feeling.
Maybe you shouldn't say anything, and maybe everyone should tune into our pod on the very first day of the season, so we give our yes or no's to that one. I think we will.
Yeah,
depends on how we buy, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think we will because City. I think it depends what happens with Bernardo Silva, which I know. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, Bernardo Silva, if he leaves, I think he's such an important player for them. I think if he goes, De Bruyne is not getting any younger. You know, players like Kovacic, who they signed last summer, he's not getting any younger. I think these things come in waves and cycles. I think we're entering our peak cycle at the minute. I think City are just about coming to the end of theirs, but we all know what City can do. I thought Guardiola, when they signed him, was a bit of a flop, and he's turned on to be an absolutely fantastic signing towards the end of the season. So I think that they'll get their recruitment right in the summer, and I still think they'll be a massive, massive force.
Okay, a couple of light-hearted ones. Phil Macker, if Spurs win, will there be an emergency pod? Well, if Spurs win, I'm happy to pop Wednesday evening. Absolutely. We can preview
Why not?
What our celebrations are going to be.
Yeah, then we're going to lose to Everton, Amanda, so let's not do that.
Right, we are not going to lose to Everton, James. We're not going to lose. Come on.
No, you're right. It'll be a draw.
Oh, for God's sake. Honestly, Chris, have a word with him. What do you mean we're going to lose to Everton?
Yeah, excuse me. You're not taking my brand of being the negative one here.
I can't.
Positive. Right, come on, one more, and then we'll rock off.
Right, hold on. So this is the forfeits, okay? So Emerson said, about your forfeit, I suggest Amanda, Chris, or James is to take the photo of you in a Tottenham and a Man City shirt. I'm never going to put a Tottenham shirt on.
Amanda is doing the forfeit, not James and I. James and I are happy to take her, let her do that.
I would never wear a Spurs shirt.
Absolutely, yeah. We're certainly not getting involved in that one.
That's not happening.
Yeah,
and then the last one is from Andrew. Hey, Amanda, for a forfeit, do the next podcast in your underwear like Gary Lineker did. I can tell you now that we've got 1,125 people watching. If I started doing that, we'd end up having one, and that would be Carl. Only because he'd feel sorry for me and he'd have to watch. No one wants to see that. Okay, Andrew, but that's where we're going to leave it there. I will do a forfeit of maybe Chris and James's choice. But I just want to read out a WhatsApp message I've just received from my city mate, because this goes on about every 6 hours. He said United was shy, Arsenal did what they need to do. This is what they think. I'm not sure City can or will beat Spurs on Tuesday, but if Villa beat Liverpool tomorrow, then Spurs can't qualify for the Champions League next season. I get messages like this all the time, every day this week. They do not believe generally that they can beat Spurs because they never win at Spurs. That I
Bullshit.
say
We
to
never
him
won at
100 times. No.
Man U.
Honestly, no, they genuinely believe that there's an issue on Tuesday night. They genuinely believe that. I said, have you even watched Spurs recently? I mean, it's going to be, I reckon, I'm going to predict for the Spurs game, I think 5-0. What do you two think?
The one thing I will say, and I know this was a completely different
Oh, you
time in the.
can't
No,
go
no, no, no.
risk it
Look,
now.
I saw someone in the comments say I was at. Yeah, Julian has called me a negative Nelly, and Julian, look, I'm going to come back at you with this, mate.
Anyway.
We all know that Spurs are likely going to throw this game, or at least their fans certainly will. But Spurs went to City earlier this season when City looked nailed on to win that game about 4-5, 6-0. They were ravaged with injuries. They had Emerson Royale playing at centre half, and they drew that game. So
there's the hopium.
Anything could happen.
See, I told you, it's the hope, isn't it? It's the hope that kills you.
I hope they drew that game. I think they did. Let me check.
They did.
I just
did,
need to go. Yeah, I thought they did.
Let's get out of here. Take us home.
And then Phil Macker says Spurs struggled against Burnley. I think we'll leave it there. I think we all know. We're all really, really proud of our boys. On behalf of the Same Old Arsenal podcast, hopefully we'll see you Wednesday evening. But you'll need to subscribe and press the bell for that to happen. And I'll pod Thursday, Friday, Saturday if I have to. If that's what it means for Tottenham to get a draw, I think we'll go and do that, won't we, boys?
Oh, yes.
Every night. Every night you'll see us. But we'd like to thank everybody. There's been over 1,100 viewers in this podcast, and it's just fantastic. Thank you. And of course, we will be doing a podcast of the end of season, regardless of what happens. If we win the league, we will not be here next Monday night because I think I'm going to try and get to the parade. But we will be going live all through the summer. Please don't leave us because we won't be leaving you. Boys, thank you so much. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, James. Let's get out of here. Let's say what we always say. Keep the faith. Always Arsenal. Come on, you Spurs. You're never going to hear me say that ever again. Oh, it felt wrong.